Hi, everybody. This is Jody Lester, and you're on Elevated Living at elevateme.org, and this is the Daily Lift. Now, this is the last 2 days of our presentation series for the month of November, and today I wanted to talk about boundaries. Now, on one of our Sunday's Deeper Elevations, we talked about minding our borders, which was also keeping boundaries. But when we're talking about boundaries in a presentation, they need to be flexible, but we also need to be mindful of them. A lot of us come with our own ideas of how things should be done, and then there are members of our audience who also have their opinion. Now, depending on the presentation, the forum, and the audience, we need to mind our boundaries. And boundaries go for the type of presentation you're giving. When we're talking about a stage presentation, there are boundaries that we need to maintain in the physical. For example, if you are doing a presentation where you are having a persuasive argument and you're teaching people about a product or service and you're wanting them to basically buy into your product, you need to keep your boundaries. There needs to be a professional distance that you keep from the audience. There's no really walking in through the aisles. There's no touching people unless you invite them up as to be a part of the presentation. That is one type of boundary that we need to maintain based on our audience and based on the material. If it is a training of sorts, those things can be more interactive. When you're training peers, or sometimes if you're training students, when you're training individuals who are looking to you as a mentor and a guru, well, there already is a specific standard or precedent set because of that dynamic. And so you can interact more with your audience. It makes them more comfortable to interact with the person they're looking up to, who's doing this particular training, who's giving them information of value that they have probably either paid for or would pay for because of who you are and because of the hierarchy of the relationship. We need to keep boundaries in all types of presentations. Even when it's not a face-to-face presentation, even when it's a networking event, there are certain boundaries that we need to maintain. Sometimes when we're talking about business and being professional and making sure we're putting forth our best brand, we need to keep some of our personal opinions aside until you know your audience. Some audiences, it's appropriate to discuss things like religion and politics. And some audiences, not so much. They really don't care or need to know your personal views on those things. Then there's the whole issue of what type of language to use. How common are you going to get with people? How much slang are you going to use? We need to watch that depending on our audience. Audiences don't need to know all of your personal business. We need to be careful about self-disclosing when we're doing trainings and we're teaching and educating. People don't need to know that you had a drink with dinner all the time, unless it's very pertinent to the product and you're selling wine, or you're a chef and you're trying to discuss how certain wines go with certain flavors. If it's not pertinent to what you're presenting, perhaps you should leave it out. So let's be mindful of our boundaries we keep with our audiences. And at the end of the day, those of us who are really building grand networks need to know that some people will be very close to and who will know us very well and we can really let down our hair with. And some people will always need to have a professional distance. So we need to learn what the balance is and present well in that. This is Jody Lester for Elevated Living at elevateme.org. And until we next connect, keep your boundaries tight in your presentation and make sure that you're living the very best of life. I will talk to you tomorrow.